I'll be hosting this ceremony, which is being organized by the Center for Democracy and Socio-Economic Development Africa, CDS Africa for short. Now, they want to deepen the participation of the youth in our democratic process. And I am happy that all of you have made it here, even though we advertised that we're going to start at 1 p.m. And a lot of you young ones decided to show up after 1 p.m. Some say it's symptomatic of our nation. But I think for many of you, you should be able to change that, right? Are you prepared to change that? I can't hear you. No. Good. Okay, so we'll start with a prayer, and I will do that prayer. Shall we please bow down our heads and pray? Heavenly Father, we thank you for how far you've brought us. We thank you for this program. Even as we're about to begin, we pray that you shall begin, continue, and end with us. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. So let me ask you a very simple question. What sort of a democracy would you want to practice? Or would you want us to practice as a country? Have you thought about that? Any of you thought about that? Just show by hand. I won't ask you to tell me what kind of a democracy you want us to practice. But has any of you thought about this question? What sort of a democracy do you want Ghana to practice? As in, are we practicing the right democracy? Who's thought about that? Just show by hand. I won't ask you. Anyone has thought about that? Okay, it means you like our democracy. Do you see opportunities in Ghana? Or you think there are no opportunities in Ghana? How many of you see opportunities in Ghana? Show by hand. I won't ask you to tell me. So just show by hand. I want to do something. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. How many of you don't see opportunities in Ghana? Those who don't see opportunities in Ghana, just show by hand. I want to be able to count also, and then I put percentages to it and find out those who see opportunities, those who don't see opportunities. Show by hand. Okay, so do I get the impression there are many of you who just don't care? How many of you are interested in participating in our democracy? Show by hand, I want to ask you. I see a lot of you. Great. Have you started that participation already? Have you? Show by hand. So I see 3 hands that have started participating in our democracy. Good. At least we know that there are persons who are interested in participating in our democracy. And at least it's important to note that there are persons who see opportunities in this country. All we seek to do is to enable you to participate effectively in our democracy. Because the good news or the bad news is that if you don't, somebody will. We'll continue with the program, and we're very privileged to have as the person to give us the welcome address. One person that all of you will know. He studied law at 3 universities in 3 jurisdictions, first at the University of Ghana, then went to the University of the Witwatersrand in South Africa, where he obtained his master's degree, and then the University of Hanover, Germany. When he returned to Ghana in 2016, by 2017, he was already in this university and became president from August 2017. Ladies and gentlemen, let's welcome, with a round of applause, Professor Obing Miracle, who is president of Wisconsin International University College, Ghana, to give us the welcome address. The guest speaker, Vice President of Wisconsin Registrar of Wisconsin. And I've also recognized our council chairman here. Good afternoon, sir. Our deans who are present, HODs, faculty members, representatives from the Democracy and Socioeconomic Development, students, and ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon to everybody. I have the singular pleasure as the president of our university college to welcome you all once again to this afternoon's event. I say once again because of the relationship between Wisconsin International University College, Ghana, and the Center for Democracy and Socioeconomic Development, CDS. Following our very first engagement last year in the year 2023. I recall the training in research techniques facilitated by Dr. Frank Bano, where both staff and students were taken through a comprehensive understanding of research methodology, covering different aspects of research, including research design, data collection methods, and data analysis techniques, all in the field of research. Several months down the line, the relationship is rekindled with yet another important engagement around deepening youth participation in the democratic process. Ladies and gentlemen, as we delve deeper into the vital role of democracy in Ghana's development, it is imperative that we address the level of youth participation in governance and politics. The youth represent the future of our nation, and their active involvement in shaping our democratic processes is essential for sustainable progress. In the past, youth participation in politics may have been limited by various factors such as lack of access to information, limited platforms for engagement, and cultural barriers. However, in recent years, we have witnessed a significant shift. The youth of today are more informed, more connected, and more passionate about driving change in their communities and nation at large. Despite this progress, a few challenges persist. Many young people still face barriers to entry into the political arena, including limited resources, unequal access to opportunities, and entrenched systems of patronage. Additionally, there is a perception among some youth that politics is corrupt, ineffective, or disconnected from their everyday lives, leading to apathy or disillusionment. Ladies and gentlemen, the rise of social media and digital platforms have both empowered and complicated youth engagement in politics. While these tools provide avenues for mobilization, activism, and information sharing, they also present challenges such as the spread of misinformation, echo chambers, and online harassment. Distinguished guests, it is crucial that we address these challenges and create an environment that encourages and supports
youth participation in governance and politics. We must provide young people with the necessary skills, resources, and opportunities, just like what is happening here today, to make meaningful contributions to our democratic project. This includes investing in civic education, creating inclusive spaces for dialogue and debate, and fostering mentorship and leadership development programs.
Once again, on behalf of the entire university, I warmly welcome you to this event and wish us all a very successful conversation that will help us in building a more vibrant, inclusive, and resilient democracy for generations to come. I thank you. We can definitely do better around our press. Thank you very much, Professor Sunday, President of Wisconsin International University of the He's right. All of us have to be involved in the democratic process. When you're human sense of fairness and expecting things go the way you want it. You know, there are many so, I mean, there's nothing in this country. I've lost hope in this country. But I will pause for a moment to think about the fact that you can actually bring hope to this country. And then you can bring hope to others. It will first of all start with a simple decision on your part to play your own role. Of course, I know the young ones have asked, what does the state also have for them? And I'm sure as we get into the conversation, we'll talk about all of these things. Thank you very much, Professor Bingmereku. We'll now have an address by the Programs Director of CDS Africa. Even though he's mainly been involved in the healthcare and environmental sectors, he also has a keen interest in politics and democratic development. Let's welcome Emmanuel Mensah. With a round of applause.
Thank you very much. I'm Margaret Winston. Before I make my remark, I wanted to find out from the SRC President, Hakim, whether he would not think of me being vertically challenged before putting this in front of me. Perhaps some of you who are closer will be able to see me and maybe just see my head. But those of you who are a little further from this program may find it challenging to see. And if that is the case, please let me know. I'll find this too so I can stand on top of it so you see more clearly. Thank you very much. And that is by the way. Once again, I would like to say a good afternoon to all of you. And I would like to begin my remarks by acknowledging our professor and president of Wisconsin International University, Professor Obing Mereku. Also, our chair of the board of this prestigious university. I know Dr. Gabega is not here, but also would like to acknowledge him as the head of the graduate school as well. And Professor Abeku Blankson, who is on his way to this forum today, and Professor Blankson is the board chair for CDS Africa. Also to our invited guests today, I would like to welcome all of you, and that on that note to say all protocol
observed. It is with great pleasure and anticipation that I welcome you once again to the Youth Forum on Deepening Youth Participation in the Democratic Process, organized by the Africa Center for Democracy and Socio-Economic Development, CDS Africa, and duly hosted by our prestigious university, the Wisconsin International University College. As the program's director, I am deeply honored to convene this gathering, which holds profound significance in our collective pursuit of a more inclusive and a vibrant democracy. As we embark on this forum, I am reminded of the timeless words of Charles Handy, who famously said, "Citizenship is a chance to make a difference to the place where you belong." Indeed, the active engagement of young people is not merely a desirable aspect of democracy, but an indispensable cornerstone for its sustenance and evolution. Similarly, the words of Norman Cousins resonate so well with me with profound relevance that in democracy, the individual enjoys not only the ultimate power, but carries the ultimate responsibility. We, today gathered here, are reminded by Norman's quote to exercise our right to vote and to participate in civic activities as young people. And as young people, we can directly influence decisions made by elected representatives and government officials. And in doing so, you are not only contributing to shaping policies and laws that affect your lives, but also hold those in power accountable for their actions. Therefore, our deliberations today are not merely about theoretical discourse. They are about shaping the present landscape of democracy by empowering and amplifying the voices of you, our youth. It is my hope that in the spirit of democracy, we embrace diversity of thought, cultivate dialogue, and nurture a culture of active citizenship among our youth. For it is through your participation, innovation, and idealism that we can all truly realize the democratic ideals of equality, justice, and freedom for all. As we delve into the discussions and exchange of ideas over the course of this forum, let us remain steadfast in our commitment to fostering an environment where every young person feels valued, empowered, and equipped to contribute meaningfully to the democratic process. Once again, I extend, on behalf of CDS Africa, a warmest welcome to each of you and express our sincere gratitude for your participation today in this vital conversation. Together, let us embark on this journey towards deepening youth participation in the democratic process. for the betterment of our society and the advancement of democracy itself. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Emmanuel, and I can understand the frustration. Even for those of us who are tall, this is very high. So for those of you with presidential height, we can understand. Oh, what is wrong with having a presidential height? There's nothing wrong. I saw you shocked that I said he had a presidential height. Even if the president was here, he would laugh about that. He's not so concerned when you say he's not that tall. He himself appreciates that. Anyway, thank you very much, Emmanuel. Of course, we all have a role to play, and we just cannot sit on the fence. We also have a responsibility. That's the most important thing. And for many of us, we always talk about the things that we're supposed to get, but we never talk about what we must give before we get to enjoy all the good things we always talk about. And so, yes, it's important. All of us have a responsibility. Time to hear from the students, time to hear from the youth, and find out from them what their perceptions are. What is it about this country? And I started by asking questions. I hear that these days a lot of young ones like to do extempore, like we say. So you may try answering my questions, but if you're not willing to, just feel free. I asked a few questions. I asked whether you were okay with the sort of democracy we're practicing, and whether you think or believe that there are no opportunities in Ghana, and whether the country shut you out, and whether you're willing to participate in the country's democratic process. If you're ready, let's welcome the SRC president of Wisconsin International University College, Hakeem Enyan Steve, with a round of applause.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon. Distinguished guests, esteemed colleagues, fellow citizens, today we gather here to discuss a very important topic, that is deepening the youth participation in the democratic processes. Let us draw some inspirations from the wisdoms of the world ancient leaders as we explore the ways to empower our youth in Ghana to shape the future of our democracy. We want to look at the importance of participation in our democratic processes as youth. As Mahatma Gandhi said, the future depends on today. And I believe that as youth, as we are here, the future that we decide to have, or we wanting to say that we want to be part of the democratic processes, begins today. Everything we do today counts. Every little thing counts. And the democratic processes that we want to be part of also is not just resonating by you being a youth, you have to be part. The Bible always told us that you should study to show thyself approved at all times. There are very important and thematic things that as youth, if we want to be part of the democratic processes in Ghana, we would have to position ourselves very well to be able to sit well. In the local dialect or parlance, there is a statement that says, let's ask ourselves, have we been able to wash our hands very well? That's a rhetorical question for ourselves. Indeed, we acknowledge the fact that as youth, there are challenges that we face wanting to be part of democratic processes. First of all, your age, vindictiveness, and all those things. Our youthful exuberance sometimes makes it look like we are disrespectful. However, these are all things that we know that they are challenges. But how can we maneuver ourselves in this trying democracy that we have, or in this young democracy that we have, and we find ourselves? Now, to deepen the democracy that we have, I would want to first go to education. First, you have to educate yourself and empower yourself. Education in this particular instance comes in two folds. It's not only you getting the academic degrees, but let's ask ourselves, how many students are here who are interested in SRC activities on campus? How many people are interested in wanting to make their views or share their opinions on issues? Now, these are form of informal education. Our lecturers will let us know that we have informal curriculum that we study. Now, we can draw inspiration from certain parliamentarians like Okujato Ablakwa, Haruna Idrisu, and the rest. They started as student leaders. Let's ask ourselves, even in our various classrooms, the positions that are being given to us, how best do we handle it? If they give you the small ones and you're unable to handle it very well, then you have just shot yourself. But if the little ones, you do it and you do it well, somebody will see you. So the Bible says that let your light shine before men, and they shall see your good deeds and glorify your Father in heaven. Now, me being a student leader, I have seen a plethora of issues whereby students think that we are students and we are studying and we are going, irrespective of whatever happens, we don't care. If we want to be part of the deepening of the social democracy that we have, or the democracy in general, the question is that how do we position ourselves? We should educate ourselves very well. Now, we should encourage mentorship. This goes to our seniors or our senior citizens here and then ourselves. The things that you will read in books will not be the same as experiences drawn from senior people. You would one day want to be a judge. You would one day want to be a politician. We have judges around who could give you the directive. And you feel that because you are just in school and everything will get it, that will not give you the particular pinnacle. In the ancient Greek, if they would want to choose somebody who would train people to go for war, they take people who have actually gone for war and have failed or have succeeded. Because somebody who has gone there will see their mistakes and you will learn from that and correct it. Let's ask ourselves as young people, how often do we want to draw ourselves closer to senior people to get inspiration from them? Our senior colleagues also, how many times or what are the conscious efforts have we made to bring people closer that deliberately that I would want to mentor this particular person so that in my absence, this person takes part. The democracy we speak about is not only in the mainstream, it starts from our faculties. When policies are being implemented, do we consult our course reps? Do we sometimes take some few course reps and then train them so that one day, if we are not there, they can take the position? The youth also, have we ever decided that we want to be like this person and we learn from his mistakes? If we want to sit at the table, this is the time. I wouldn't say that we are tomorrow's leaders. We are the tomorrow adults. Yes, indeed, as this our age, we have all the time to make mistakes. And we have the time for our seniors to correct us. But the question is that if you do not, I repeat, if you do not make the mistakes now, and you grow up and you are now going to make the mistake, and eventually maybe you become a member of parliament, and that's when you are going to make the mistake. Imagine the number of people that you are leading them to the ditch. Let us encourage ourselves to be mentored, and our seniors also lead you to actually adapt some of our mentor acts. I also go to promote inclusivity. Indeed, as we are youth, there are certain ideas that comes in your mind or in this world of social media that our seniors may not have had ideas of. That doesn't mean that they don't have the knowledge. There is a statement in there's another in G that says before answer Ebabero Akra Nyansafuno, na Yawu Pelikasia. I'm sorry, but what it means is that before they gave birth to a very intelligent young man, there was a foolish old man. You understand? So irrespective of how you think that you are well learned or well educated, indeed you have the view. But let us also try and find ways and means to inculcate our new generation ideas with the old ones. Just draw the fine tune. I hear youth now saying that let the grown-ups go and sit down and hand it over to us. Indeed, even in the most elite democracies like America, the old ones are still running for office. However, I believe that the young man should also be given that particular opportunity. How old was Macron when he became the president of France? Let's ask ourselves, in Ghana, will it be very possible for 40 years to lead the country? Let us ask ourselves. Alexander the Great, how old was he? Let us ask even Augustus Caesar, how old was he? These were all people within their prime, between the ages of 35 to 40. So I believe that it is very possible. However, it depends on how we position ourselves. We should harness technology. You see, we should be free from the monarchical mentality that we have, making it, you see, we cannot do the old things and get new results. That's an honest truth. I'm sorry that I have to leave the speech and then let's speak to ourselves. We cannot do the old things and have new results. You would want to be a particular person. Or let's take ourselves as students that you're a student in school right now. You took a particular behavior last semester, you got C's. The new semester, you are actually repeating the same behavior, you still get C's. So that also goes to our particular environment. You know that this thing could be done. Now you are sitting on the fence waiting for it to fail. If it fails, you are part of it. Or besides a person in the Bible, if a bad person leaves the country, you have a problem. This is no respecter of anybody. But what I'm trying to say is that as youth, if you have ideas that you believe that should be shared for people to know, for people to be included, let us proceed it well. How often do we want to write or how often do we want to make articles about issues? The time we spend on social media to comment on funny things. There are a lot of issues that happens in Ghana that we know. Now, if you ask the youth here that what is our GDP, we don't know. But if you ask what's the most trendy entertainment, we will know. These are things that we have to make a conscious effort to change it. Indeed, it is a program that we are all coming to learn. But I believe that as a youth, and we are age bracket, we all have to advise ourselves. In summing up, I'm going to say that you have to create a ladder of priorities and values in your life that will constantly remind you of what are most important to you. I thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much, SRC President Hakeem Enyan Steve. And he asked a very important question, even in the university, how many of you take part in the activities of the SRC? It all starts from here. You must be concerned the kind of representation you have on campus and outside campus. Okay? So I know there are many of you who are a lot of you are very young. With the UN policy, when you talk about the youth, you're looking at up to 25. AU says up to 35. And so even if you're 35 years, you have 25 years to go on retirement. So ask the question, when you're on retirement, is this the kind of society you want to live in? Sometimes you actually must fight for a better old age and must also fight for a better society for the young ones who are coming. Think about it that way. Look, if we look around, we've seen people, we've seen older people. And I know there are many of you who say, oh, they didn't live a good life. But how about the systems in this country? How do you ensure that those who take these decisions consider your thoughts? You only can get it when you, and I tell you one thing, if all of you should decide, for instance, and this is an election year, if the students of 3 or 4 universities come out with a youth manifesto and ask political parties to include them in their manifesto, they will. But you don't end there. After it's been included in the manifesto, you demand that those policies and programs be implemented. It is that simple. Even the things that are not so necessary, they're implementing them. How much more? The things that are necessary. Let's give them another round of applause. We now would welcome Akusiana and Alexis Obiniwa Opoku-Agyeman, who's at the School of Communications here at Wisconsin International University College, also with a round of applause.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon to everybody. I would want to use this opportunity to wish every woman here a happy International Women's Day. The conversation today centered around democracy brings me to the job that I do as a brand consultant and a human developer. It also brings me to one of the things that he just mentioned. Who do we want to be and what impact do we want to live at the end of the day? And so, ladies and gentlemen, honored visitors here, and Ghana's vibrant young youth. As we convey here today, we are confronted with a significant situation that requires our immediate attention and collaborative action. Our democracy and the entire fabric of our society is at the crossroads. And I know you and I would believe that it is at that crossroad because there's so many things you see people hashtag on social media advocating for, wishing that they could change and give us a different result. However, it just ends on social media and nobody does anything about it. And even when there's a room for us to go on, out there and preach the gospel, we sit in our homes and then only critique. And so the question to you is, what are you doing as a person, as a youth, and with your basic principles to life, what really do you want to also leave behind as a person? This concern is not unfounded. In the aftermath of the recent events across our sub-Saharan regions, we have witnessed how the manipulation of youth sentiments can destabilize democracies and undermine the very foundation of governance. But let's not succumb to fear and despair. Many a times, politicians will put us in the space where we think that nothing can actually work. We think that your voice only ends in your room. But I'll tell you what, growing up as a young lady, coming from a space where, well, by the mention of my name, you may know where I'm coming from. And so coming from a space where you have a lot of people who are educated, who understand the principles of what education should look like, everybody has an expectation of you. Even here at Wisconsin, there are lecturers who would meet you and ask you, you're a Pokwa German? I didn't expect that grade from you. It means that everybody in society wants to see something come out of you. And so if the conversation is happening and you're not involving yourself, the expectation they have of you is not actually met. It will take me back to you understanding your priorities as an individual to be able to narrow it down to the Constitution and what it gives you or what the Ghanaian youth policies actually says. And so we go back to my presentation, which speaks. But policies alone are not enough. During the launch of the Ghana Youth Policy in 2022, which marks a significant milestone in our journey towards empowering the next generation of leaders, this policy recognizes crucial roles that young youth play an important role in shaping the country that we actually hope that we have in the future, and outlines concrete steps to enhance their participation in all aspects of society, including democratic processes. But policy, is that alone enough? If we ask, no, it's not. And action to that policy is what makes it work. And so, by integrating teaching and learning about democracy in the basic educational curriculum becomes the foremost thing that I, as a person, has actually started advocating for. I started this advocacy from 2012, and to date, we are still on the journey. It has not been an easy one, but I guarantee you what, there's progress that we've made. And so, this is a statement to the nation, to people here, students listening to me right now, and also to those in leadership positions. We need that education to go that far. We need everybody to understand that they play an important role as part of the country to make it a better place for all of us to stay. The statistics speak for themselves. The young constitutes a significant part of the democracy. And so, during the election period, we know everybody coming to the youth asking us to vote for this, vote for that, is because they know that without your vote, they cannot do anything. And so if you're putting them in that position, it is right of you that you ask for accountability. When they are not doing the right things. A typical example, I wrote an article that was just about last week with regards to the bill that has been sent to Parliament for passage, which brings our minds to whether the youth have been involved in that process of making sure that the bill makes critical sense. If you're not in the law space and you have not studied what the bill actually says, then you may be excited that, okay, really based on traditional principles, this law really makes sense. But if you look at the future that is ahead of us, what is the bill actually telling us in future? In essence, you realize that there are people in there that are going to suffer, and as part of a generation that actually desire for something good to happen, I don't think we want to find that bill passed in the way they want it to be passed. And so as part of my advocacy as an individual, I think something has to be done about some of the things critically stated in that policy. However, in that bill, the youth Democracy Forum, which is organized by the CDS, is one of the advocacy platforms that I believe a lot of people can actually use to propagate whatever gospel they want the general public to have. And I use that opportunity to encourage other organizations to open up for such forums, listen to what the youth actually have, help those who actually have the voice and want to be heard, to be heard. We must also draw inspiration from the African Charter on Youth and Democracy, a groundbreaking document that reaffirms the right of young people to participate fully in the democratic process. This charter reminds us that democracy is not just a political system, it's a fundamental human right that must be protected and preserved for future generations. As we reflect on the importance of deepening youth participation in the democratic process, let us remember one thing: the words of Nelson Mandela, which says, I quote, "Young people are capable when they are aroused, of bringing down the towers of oppression and raising the banners of freedom," unquote. Let us harness the energy and enthusiasm of our youth to build a stronger and more inclusive democracy for all. I will leave us all with these three areas: educate, empower, and preserve. In education, the government needs to invest in education to ensure that every young person under their role is going through the democratic system together with everybody. Two, empower, provide opportunity for young people to engage meaningfully in civic life, whether through volunteerism, activism, or political participation with a mind of their own rather than manipulation. And three, to preserve, upholding the principles of democracy outlined in the African Charter on Youth and Democracy, and work tirelessly to safeguard these rights for the future. Together, let us build a bright future for Ghana, a future where everybody's voice is heard, a future where every vote counts, and a future where every young person has the opportunity to shape their own destiny. And so, I urge every one of us here to seize the opportunity, to join in this important conversation, and to lend your voices to the chorus of the democracy that we seek, and to make sure that we are part of the change that we seek for the world today. Together, let us deepen our participation in the democratic process. Together, let us build a bright future for Ghana. Thank you very much.
Thank you very, very much. So we have a lot of things to do together, right? I can't hear you, right? Good. I'm happy that you agree that we have a lot of things to do. But most importantly, you, because like one of my bosses said, there are some of us in the waiting room. You know the waiting room? You are waiting for God to call you. But for many of you, you have long years ahead of you. And it's the reason we are with you. If for nothing at all, you can be part of the change that you speak of and would want. I am not sure I understand you better than you do. Is it possible that I would understand you better than yourself? You know yourself better than I would do. So why don't you get involved in being able to discuss and plan for the future that you need? At this juncture, would invite a man who's no stranger to many of you. If you are involved in political discussions like I am every morning when I sit on radio on Joy FM, he is the head of the Political Science Department at the University of Ghana. Let's welcome Professor Seydou Alidou to give us the keynote address with a round of applause.
Good afternoon to you all. President of Wisconsin International University College, Professor Obeng Miracle, Director of Programs, CDS Africa, Mr. Emmanuel Mensah. If the two of you would kindly permit me to stand on the protocols already established and go straight to present my keynote speech. Basically, what I'm supposed to do is to talk about deepening youth participation in the democratic process. Deepening suggests that there's already a form of participation. What we need to do is to uptake that participation. And speaking to deepening youth participation in the democratic process is something that will unleash the potential, but also encourage and motivate we the young ones to participate in the decision-making process. So basically, my task is to create the academic or theoretical underpinning for the discussion that we're going to have throughout this afternoon. So basically, I'm going to start by trying to operationalize key concepts that are of critical significance to our understanding today's discussion. And they include 1, democracy, and 2, participation. So once I'm done with this, I will try to look at the historical evolution of democratic participation as a process. Then I look at the democratic processes, focusing on both the dividends and the setbacks. Then I look at how do we deepen democratic participation. So we focus on the how and the where, and then I will definitely conclude my presentation. I start with a quote from a letter written by one of the founding members of the United States of America, John Adams, to John Taylor in 1814. And he mentioned that, he said, and I quote him, "Remember, democracy never lasts long. It soon wastes, exhausts, and murders itself. There never was a democracy yet that did not commit suicide." When we teach democracy in our classroom, we always refer to a very prominent theory called the democratic peace theory. And we say one of the selling points, key selling points of democracy as a system of government is the fact that democracy brings peace, that creates stability, and peace and stability leads to development. Why do we say so? Because we believe that democracy have inherent institutions that regulate, or democracy is a self-regulatory process, because there are inherent institutions that allow for a peaceful resolution of disputes before they escalate to the level of war or minimally conflict. But when John Adams says that democracy never lasts long, but also there never was a democracy yet that did not commit suicide, people begin to ponder, how come a system of government that is self-regulatory, self-progressive, will never last long? Simply because democracy self-evolves and self-regulates when we participate continuously in the process. So it is through continuous participation that we are able to come with new, insightful ideas, expand the frontiers of the field, and be able to make democracy self-sustainable. Short of this, democracy will commit suicide. So it is one of the most important reasons why we have gathered this afternoon to see how we can prevent democracy from committing suicide. And democracy as a system of government has a tortuous origin. So it comes from 2 Greek words, which is already known, demos and kratos, basically people and then to govern or to rule. So translated literally, democracy simply means government of the people or government of the majority. And as government of the people or government of the majority, democracy is quite different from other systems of government, including monarchy, theocracy, anarchism, autocracy, and all the other C's that we have. Simply because it comes from the people, it's exercised by the people, and for the purpose and benefit of the people. So when we understand democracy this way, we can look at 2 major typologies of the concept. The first is by practice. Democracy can never be self-sustainable if we do not practice it. If it's just left theoretically as a concept, it will commit suicide. It is only through practice that we can participate. And when we are looking at democracy on the typology front of practice, we can talk about, or we can distinguish between direct democracy and representative democracy. Come to look at it, democracy basically started around 4th century BC in the city of Athens. So this has been largely disputed because some scholars believe that even there were primitive tribes that practiced democracy long before even the Athenian evolution. But basically, when we look at democracy by practice, we are looking at the direct system of democracy where everybody in the community will gather around the baobab tree or a very common center, the amphitheater, and deliberate on their concerns and challenges. But population explosion, where are we going to sit 32 million Ghanaians and deliberate on our welfare and our well-being? So it has increasingly become very difficult. And that is the more reason why we have moved away from direct system of government to representative system of government. So democracy by representation simply means that we cluster our population into specific zones and elect people who will represent the interests of the larger group of people. Ideologically, we can distinguish between over 13 types of democracy, and they include majoritarian democracy, electoral democracy, egalitarian democracy, social democracy, participatory democracy, consensus-oriented democracy, liberal democracy, and deliberative democracy. Of all these systems of democracy, people believe that what is best is what resonates or reflects with your culture, your way of life, and the environment in which you live. So of all these other forms of democracy by ideology, majoritarian, electoral, deliberative, consensus, participatory, and egalitarian democracy focus or are at the heartbeat of the whole concept of participation. But people often say that how relevant is these typologies to the African context, and whether Africans need a different system of democracy rather than this typology, or it is in a way we will have to integrate the elements and the core values of these systems of government to what we already do. To be able to understand the essence of participation in democratic development, we need to have a look at the democratic continuum, how democracy as a system of government starts. So basically, a regime is technically non-democratic if you do not allow citizens to participate in the decision-making process. So when you pick a non-democratic regime, the basic feature of non-democratic regime is no participation. People do not have the opportunity to participate in the decision-making process that affect their lives. So if there's no participation, virtually there will be very limited or no democratic culture. But when you move a little bit from a non-democratic regime to the first step in democratic processes, which we call conflicted democracy, the difference, the outstanding difference between a non-democratic regime and a conflicted democracy is what? Limited participation. Either once every 4 years or 5 years you go and vote, or once in a specific period that people participate. So in a conflicted democracy, the difference is that the people have the power to determine who governs them. No matter how flawed, no matter how reckless, no matter how evil that process is, at least the people have a say. And it's not just about the participation, but there's also a little bit of the development of democratic culture and democratic ethics. But it's called conflicted because you still have the vestiges of the non-democratic regime featuring strongly in the conflicted democracy. So, for example, when we moved from, I'll give this example, but it's too political. The idea is that when we move from a non-democratic regime to a conflicted democracy, you still have the remnants, the evils, some of the undemocratic practices still surfacing strongly in the conflicted democracy. But the difference is that people still have the power to determine who leads them. But when we move a little bit away to what we call the paradigmatic democracy, it is now a serious paradigm shift. It is called paradigmatic because in the second instance, that is the conflicted democracy, the international community still applaud you, they still encourage you because you are learning to walk. If you've given birth to a child and then the child makes a very bold step to walk and then falls down, you encourage him, say, oh, come on, you can do it. Sometimes he stand in front of him and say, come and collect. You are encouraging him to walk. He will fall down, you still encourage him. So when you move from a non-democratic regime to a conflicted democracy by allowing more participation, the international community still encourages you to overcome your pitfalls and your challenges and to master the art of what? Democratic governance. But when you move from that level to paradigmatic democracy, it's no longer just about participation and elections. It's more about what? Expanded regular democratic ethos and values. So you have to allow for the respect of media freedom, press freedom, fundamental human rights, and all those things that make democracy tick. Respect and creating enabling environment for CSOs to be able to operate. And when you make a mistake and you don't implement or you don't enforce these particular principles, it will come with punishment. They could impose sanctions on you, they could openly condemn or rebuke you, and they could find a way to put you in shame. So largely, when we move away from the pragmatic, the last form of democratic development in the continuum is what we call consolidation. And every country strives to consolidate. So every day you hear this word, we want to consolidate our democracy, we are moving towards consolidation. What does that mean? Consolidation manifests in two different forms. Basically, to consolidate means that you have imbibed all the democratic values and ethos, and you allow for a regular, constant criticism, not just participation, but criticism of the values and what you do as a government. The first manifestation is defined by Professor Samuel Huntington to include what he calls the two turnover times. That is still linked to participation, i.e. elections. And basically, when a country allows a particular government that is incumbent to lose elections and hand over power to the opposition, and then the opposition also loses election and hand over to the other government which was in the opposition, then it suggests that the country now allows and accepts that the only way you can change a government is through what? Democratic processes. So you now allow that democracy and elections is the only game in town. That's the only means by which you can change a government. No matter how corrupt, no matter how evil, no matter how stupid, no matter how reckless the government is, you can only change the government through what? Democratic processes. But a lot of people believe that minimalist consolidation is still tied to what? Elections, just as the conflicted democracy. And we need to grow beyond just fixating participation to elections. And that is where the whole concept of habitualization comes in. So Krzyzewski defines habitualization as imbibing the ethos of democracy in our lives. You eat democracy, you speak democracy, you sleep democracy, you wake democracy. So basically, your whole life is both influenced and shaped by what? Democratic values and democratic values. So you see that the continuum is highlighted, differentiated, and enforced by what? The level by which citizens participate in the democratic process. And that speaks to the essence of democracy and participation. What then is participation? So participation suggests some degree of involvement in an activity or in a process. But academically, public participation, when we move beyond just one person to looking at broader, it is seen as an umbrella term that describes the activities by which people's concerns, needs, interests, and values are incorporated into the decision and actions on public matters and public issues. Historically, participation didn't just come by chance events. It was a process, especially deepened participation. It was a process that was well fought for, guarded, and people lost their lives in the process. But the history of direct participation in democratic and governance process is not the same. Historically, it varied from one particular civilization to another and across time periods in the parts of the world. But in terms of documentary, the Athenian Ecclesia is the first written record of direct citizens' participation participation and engagement in the democratic process. And largely, it was open to female citizens who were at least 18 years old and had at least 2 years of military service. It also served as a popular assembly point for the entrenchment of Athenian democracy, allowing citizens to speak their minds, seek consensus, and make legislative and foreign policy decisions largely governed by majority interest. But the Athenian democracy is not the first type of democracy or the first act of practice of democracy in the world. If you go back to the literature, people mention that there were tribal democracies or campfire democracies, or what we call now the baobab or under the baobab tree democracy, largely practiced by hunter-gatherer societies in Africa. But if you go to Middle East around the third millennium, there were also evidence of democratic participation by citizens and what basically Robinson referred to as the primitive democracies, by making decisions and advising the king who governed that particular part of the world. It's the same thing if you travel at the Syrophoenician cities far away, Phoenicia. There were a lot of citizens' attempts and effort to participate in the decision-making process. So, and it was also the same in India and the same across the world. So there have been serious documented history of participation in the democratic process, especially in the decision-making processes that affects people's lives. So when you look at all this history of participation, it tells us one particular thing, that it was not just it was prevalent, but not just a chance event. It was not a very easy thing to come by. In most of the cases that we look at, there was some form of limitations or caps. Either you have to be 18 years, so there was an age cap, 18 years or more. There was a kind of military service or a distinctive cap, citizenship. You need to be a citizen of that particular country, especially in Athenian Greece. There was also gender. To some extent, women were not even allowed to participate. And to some extent, wealth. If you do not have money and do not pay tax, definitely it becomes very difficult for you to participate. But when we look at it these days, it looks like it is a very free thing to do. We have more opportunity and avenues to participate than it used to be in the past. If we accept participation in this way, then we need to disabuse general assumptions and beliefs that people have about participation that reduces their ability to participate. And the first assumption is that participation is and should be led by government. In reality, participation is sometimes government-led, but can also be organized by civil society organizations like CDS Africa is doing, thought leaders, and regular citizens can create the opportunity for people to participate in the decision-making process. The second assumption that discourages people from participating is the fact that they believe participation is and should be periodic and temporary. Yes, some participation opportunities are one-off events, but there are many others that are regular, that are conventionally, and that are repeatedly governed by or guaranteed by law. The third assumption is that citizens do not want to actively participate in the work of government. And we always believe that the youth don't want to participate. When you give them opportunity, they don't want to participate. Honestly, citizens are increasingly expressing more desire to engage in public problem solving and have more capacities and skills to do so. Lastly, citizens do not understand their individual needs and interests and are likely to give undue weight to personal rather than public concerns when they are given the opportunity to participate. But in reality, participation can provide citizens with the information they need to assess their own needs and interests, as well as the needs and interests of others. And in doing so, citizens can become more aware of and open to broader participation concerns. So what are the levels of participation? We can actually look at several levels of participation. So through the public participation process, we can distinguish between indirect participation, that is largely through the act of voting, through the act of campaign contribution and donations, and giving advice and consultancies. But when we look at the direct participation, we can distinguish between three types: the thick, thin, and then the conventional. The thick participation is a judged thing because it allows for broader participation of people, usually chunked into silos or groups or committees. So you have a whole lot of people. So the work of parliament is a very good example of thick participation. Out of the 32 million Ghanaians, we elect 275 members of parliament that are further divided into committees within parliament to work in specific areas. So that is how the thick participation occurs. But the thick participation is usually individualistic. People writing comments on social media, people writing petitions, people signing petitions, people doing one-man demonstration, hunger strike, and all those. There are level of participations, but it's thin because it doesn't carry so much weight and doesn't allow for deepened border participation. The conventional participations that are usually guaranteed by law, they are conventions. So, for example, maybe every 4 years we vote. So it's a convention. If there's a year that we don't hold elections, you see how the opposition will come after the EC. So those are regular time periods. Or maybe if you are head of department, maybe every semester, the beginning of the semester and the end of semester, you hold departmental meetings. If you are VC, maybe one convocation or two convocations every act. So those are conventional. And if you don't do it, the people you lead will take you on. So it is something that is guaranteed by law. And that's why people think that it is not so much of a deepened level. But even if we can distinguish between thick and thin, how do we measure the influence of our participation? And basically, Sherry Einstein provided what we call the ladder of participation to help measure the influence and the impact that our participation can have on the decision-making process. People don't want to participate because they say, oh, even if you do it, they won't mind you. Or if you say, what will be the influence, they won't mind you. It's because of the level at which you are participating. So when you look at the level of participation, Einstein distinguishes between 8 levels of participation. Out of the 8, it is subdivided into 3 levels of influence. So the first level of influence is what she calls non-participation. So when you are being manipulated, people just set up an environment. Usually, you see it more with our development NGOs. So there's something, they'll come and assemble people, take very nice pictures, and then all the things you say, nothing will reflect in their report. Just for picture opportunity, you get more grants. So therapy is just consoling you by assuring you that all your needs will be met. You do ABC. But that will never be met. So basically, if you are participating at the first 2 levels, you are technically not participating. But the third 3 levels are a form of participation. But Einstein calls it tokenistic. It's just a token. It's a deception. So when people come and inform you what they're going to do for you, your MP said, this one I'm going to do for you. Your assembly member said, this one I'm going to do for you. So, oh, that is good. We are willing to support you. So let us know. Then he goes. He doesn't come back again. Yes, you have at least a fair idea that this is going to be done, but it will never be done. Consultation, they consult you without even asking for your input. Or even when you provide the input, it doesn't show strongly in the decision that is later made. And then placations, all those constitute the second level of participation by influence called tokenism. What is more important and influential is what we call empowerment, or the citizens' power. And that includes partnership in deepening democratic participation, delegated power in democratic participation, but also the citizens' control, the citizens owning the democratic processes and actually making their views heard. So when we want to measure the first 3 levels of participation, the thick, thin, and then the conventional, there are attributes. And each of these levels of participation are able to provide specific attributes, i.e. providing information as much as people want. The thick participation can guarantee that. The thin participation sometimes, the conventional sometimes. And goes that way from giving people a chance to tell their stories, presenting a range of policy options, up to making participation easy and convenient. Each of these levels of participation can be weighed in a very different way. But there are also strategies, goals, and outcomes as we said when we want to participate. And that basically includes from just informing people to consulting them, to involving them, to collaborating with them, and to empowering them. When we usually use the one-way communication channel, it doesn't usually lead to the kind of desired results that we want. But when we consult and we deepen consultation and we consult with the intention to listening to people's views and to making it influence the policy-making process, then we have a deepened level of participation. It's the same thing. There are various strategies and techniques that can be used, plotting it against different scenarios, and the level of influence that they can achieve. So you tend to see that wiki-based mapping and writing platforms, online networks, collaborative planning processes, participatory budgeting, and public deliberations usually will give you all the kind of desired results you want in terms of informing the public, gathering input from the public, supporting voluntarism, and making the public needs and values influence the kind of decisions that we take. So a deepened participation usually will lead to a more active participation, increased representation, and then provide and deepen accountability at the citizens level. It can also allow for the rule of law to triumph, free, regular, fair, democratic election processes, successful changeover of government, transparency, accountability at all governmental levels, and then prioritizing human rights and the freedoms of the citizenry. So what are the dividends and the setbacks of democratic processes? There are quite a lot of them, but for strategic reasons or interest reasons, I've decided to provide more dividends and less setbacks. So the dividends of participation include building a long-term democratic sustainability. Remember, I started with the quotation that democracy will commit suicide if we do not participate. But when we participate, we create an inclusive policies for the youth, because since they participate, they will fight for their interests. It also needs to increase youth voter turnout, civic education and youth awareness. It builds political stability. It can bring advice and build consensus. It increases accountability. It generates new ideas, and it builds new leadership. The setbacks include electoral fraud, the susceptibility to manipulating the youth to engage in electoral violence, lack of responsiveness, disinformation and manipulation by the media, likely populism, and then political influence and disparity. So how do we deepen level of participation? We all know that democracy is not static. It is continuously an evolving enterprise of parties. So direct participation in the policy-making process or the deepened participation in the policy-making process will begin by evaluating or assessing the participation infrastructure we already have in the country and see how we can build on those existing infrastructure. And if they are still not enough, how we can create new ones. And there are three basic ways we can do this. One, empowering and activating leaders, existing leaders, and networks that can guarantee sustained democratic participation, assembling participation building blocks, and then providing systematic support for those who wish to participate. And at the level of activating leaders, we can look at several levels of leadership: elected officials, public servants, civic leaders, and other professional organizations. And basically, when we work with them in a manner that enhances opportunity for them to participate, they can play three important roles. One, as conveners; two, as organizers; and three, as funders for the proposed participation conventions and formulations and forms. Secondly, is by assembling participation building blocks. These blocks already exist. There are ways that we can use them, we can strengthen them, and we can make them more powerful. Last but not the least is providing systematic support. When people come out to participate, we have to support them, we have to encourage them, provide incentives for leaders who champion democratic participation, create opportunity to empowerment so that people will understand what participation is and the essence of participation to be able to participate, provide adequate financial and other resources to encourage and sustain participation, and then design clear policies and procedures that will create opportunity for sustained participation. Over time, we are able to create reliable evaluation and benchmarks to be able to measure our participation. So largely, in conclusion, I will say that the youth are the future of mankind, just as they are the mainstay of the youth are the future of mankind, just as they are the mainstay of the present. And it's not easy to participate in the decision-making process now than as in yesteryears, and we need to seize the opportunity as youth to be able to participate and influence the decision-making process. And I do believe that this event is the beginning of the process for advancing the right of the youth to do deeper participation. Thank you so much.
We can definitely do better. Let's give him another round of applause. And Prof, please take a seat here for me, because we're about to start the panel discussion. It's very important. I know that we don't have a lot of time in many of these instances. Sometimes we're unable to start very early, but please get a microphone. I have one here. And let me introduce our discussants. I think I have a question or two. I'm not going to ask a lot of questions, so that allow all of you to ask the questions that you may have. Joshua Worship Frimpong is at the Gimpa Law School. Let's welcome him with a round of applause. Take your seat here. And Mavis Ikuyakwenu is law lecturer at Wisconsin International University College. Let's welcome her with a round of applause too. I am interested in that conversation, but that's fine. Please have a seat. So I'd like to start off with you. I think I'll start off with you, Worship. Because you are the youth amongst the panel, it's important we start with you and find out from you. So you've heard Professor Ali Dusedu talk about all the things that must be done. When we were on Gimpa campus, you asked the question, what the society can also do for the youth. And this time around, I want us to start by answering a few questions. What is preventing the youth from deeply participating in a democratic process? And please pick the microphone and tell me so we can get answers to it and then we move. Yes. It's been 10 already, yes.
Right.
I've asked you a simple question, Worship. What is preventing the youth from deeply participating in a democratic process?
Okay. I hope all of you are lively. Right. I noticed that I fell asleep during the session, and I was a bit worried, only for me to turn to see that the cameraman had also joined as well. So we're all on the same page. But to answer your question, I think the Prof doesn't like to hear that answer all the time, but I would say it, and I would say it emphatically, that an enabling environment is very important for young people to thrive. And when I say an enabling environment, I am literally talking about an environment that encourages young people and helps them to explore beyond tradition. Because for you to be able to essentially, I'm a farmer, so I often would want to use as an example. If you don't do the right things, if you don't plant properly, you're definitely not going to get a good yield. But more importantly, if the land you're using is very bad, it goes to the root case, to the root cause of the problem that we identify. And so I think that many young people in the country have enough that they could give, or they can give. But if the supporting environment is not there, it becomes a problem. For example, a number of my colleagues that have left the country are doing very well outside. A number of them are doing quite well. In fact, they don't even have to exert much more pressure than they are doing here. A little bit, the system is quite good, and then it pushes them to do well. So for me, the enabling environment is key, and I think that we all have a responsibility to ensure that young people have that support, they have that supporting system to be able to do the things that they have to do.
When you say enabling environment, what exactly do you mean?
I saw something quite funny today on Twitter, and it was a post by one young man who said that today when you leave the university, as a degree holder, there's no job for you to do. And the gentlemen who are engaged today, we don't call them fraud anymore, we call them cyber security entrepreneurs. but the the young men who are engaged in that, are doing quite well and living the good life and buying themselves very good cars and all of that. And it begins to make, make it a bit counterintuitive for those who are putting in the energy and pursuing education and all of that. Because if you have to go through all the school, this stress, 4 years to finish school, and then not be able to get jobs, it becomes a problem. And when I say that, I don't mean that the government will be able to create jobs for every single person, no. But I mean that that effort that would stabilize the system for even young people to be able to create jobs for themselves is key. I remember that a month ago, they don't call it Doomsor now, they call it Doom CC. So you see that the light goes off for a long time and then it comes on again. I operate a pharmacy and the light went on for a week and we had to run a generator. So if as a young person like myself, as I have a startup and I have to run on a generator for a week, I don't think that my startup can grow.
Okay. Let me bring in Professor Seydou Alidou. And is there not the more reason you should be interested in ensuring that, one, you have the right policies, and two, you have the right people leading you?
Okay, thank you so much. I think it boils down to the point that worship made about the enabling environment. Participation, and we look at the history of participation, it has never been given on a silver platter. From day one, people had to fight, even in the US. Women had to fight, demonstrate, to be included. Even now, we are still fighting for affirmative action and gender quota. So it's not something that will be handed over to you on a silver platter. The enabling environment includes the political system, the political institutions, the quality of legislations and laws, and the leadership. So if you look at the political system in North Korea, it is not enabling enough for participation compared to maybe the political system in the United States of America or in Britain or in Ghana. So the political system is one enabler. Two, the institutions. Which democratic institutions are established? And how does those democratic institutions enable or restrict participation? So you can even have a very open democratic system, but the institution doesn't enable people to participate, because when people make the attempt to participate, it discriminates or it self-selects. And then you've mentioned policy. It's very crucial. Democracy is built on institutions. And institutions, I mean Douglas North understanding of institutions, that they are humanly devised constraints that shape, limit, and restrict our lives. So it's about laws, it's about conventions, it's about protocols, it's about customs, it's about practices. Basically, those institutions provide the opportunity for people to participate. And our participation is guided and enabled by the same institutions. So the 1992 Constitution, for example, creates an enabling environment for people to participate. And even where your rights are limited or restricted, there's an opportunity for you to fight for it through democratic means. But also the people who lead us, as you mentioned, is leadership is key in everything. If you look at the history of bravery and heroism, it is always people who fight and continue to fight at the time that everything is against them. They become the heroes that we worship. Look at Nelson Mandela. Look at Louis Farrakhan. Look at Kwame Nkrumah. And all those people that we celebrate these days. If they will say, oh, the system is not enabling, they are crashing me, they are doing this, nobody will have celebrated Mandela. Nobody will have celebrated Louis Farrakhan. Nobody will have celebrated the Dalai Lama and all the big people. So it is when even it gets off that you insist on your right to participate. And that is when you make history. So I think that the people that we elect to lead the way should create an opportunity for us to be able to participate and hold them to account. Anything short of this, then we have the opportunity to be able to take them home. And it is also very important because wisdom, leadership is very key. Basically, if you are a leader and you are not selfless, you are creating a huge vacuum. So Miles Monroe mentions that a successful leadership without a successor is a complete failure. So when you are given the opportunity to lead, you create an avenue and empower those that you are leading. To the extent that when you are no longer there, they can feel the vacuum, step in your shoes, and continue from where you So both policies and leadership are very critical components to creating an enabling environment for citizens to be able to participate.
Great. Let me get to Mavis on this. I mean, have we shut out opportunities on the youth? Is it that as a nation we have made it too difficult for them? Or maybe they want a soft life that we are unable to provide?
Wonderful question. Have we made it soft for the youth or difficult? It's a difficult answer. But I would say, in fact, everything about the youth in this country must always be enjoyed with a little bit of a struggle compared to other jurisdictions. Ours come with a little bit of a struggle. Talking about even participating in politics, to employment, to education. We have so many barriers affecting the participation of our youth. I'm also a youth. I remember getting the opportunity to even study abroad for my master's in law. I observed that the environment which shaped me affected me greatly in terms of language. English is our national language. Finding myself outside, I realized I had a lot to learn. Understanding the same language that was used in the US for my master's program. It took time for me to adjust. Then again, self-confidence on our part as youth is also questionable. From the time we are born into our various communities, the training that we get, all affects who we are in terms of our confidence, being able to even come out to speak or express freely. It's all a problem. Being a lecturer of law, getting the opportunity to read the Constitution, I was amazed to see or learn about the steps that were adopted or exhausted before we adopted for ourselves the 1992 Constitution. When you read the preamble, the very first important constitutional provisions, Article 1 and 2, you observe that when they talk about the sovereignty of Ghana, it talks about the people, it resides in the people. That is you and I. Everyone, including the youth, occupy a very important position when it comes to the 1992 Constitution. Even when we talk about the power of government, the power of government belongs to the people. The government that we have adopted for ourselves, everything about them lies with the people, you and I, through the power of our tongue. But unfortunately, there appears to be a very big disconnect in terms of our participation. I remember while I was on the bench, at a point in time, I had to leave the bench, okay, and find a new career. And at the time of my exit, I was greeted with an opportunity to participate in politics, standing as an MP for my constituency. And then I threw that opportunity away. In my hometown, I had a similar invitation, I threw it away. Ask me why.
Wow.
So many factors. Oh yes, that's what I'm saying. Fear, and then issue of what? Resources. At that point in time, I had little knowledge about politics, about democracy, or even, yes, how to even start the journey. So many things came up my mind, and then I let go, and I've never regretted. Then again, I have a direct brother who's also a youth. He fought through and through. It's 12 years now, and as we speak now, it appears this year he had a breakthrough, standing as a primary on one of the tickets of the major parties. Yes. It is not easy for the youth. It is not easy at all for the youth, not only in politics, but in all other professions. I am privileged to be a lawyer. Even to become a member of this profession, we have to fight. I had to fight day and night, learning in the library on my own from others. Indeed, we cannot make it all by ourselves. To succeed in life, not only in politics or participating in politics, you need God. You need God. Pray. Work hard as if it all depends on you. You pray as if it also depends on God. Okay? You learn, upgrade yourself, develop yourselves. I was so happy when I entered this room and I saw that flyer. I don't know how it's called, but it's a pull-up one.
The pull-up, yes.
I was so happy when I saw the very first statement. Don't just learn, experience it. Most of us have limited ourselves to what? Book knowledge. No, that doesn't bite anymore. Practicals. In as much as you get opportunity to train yourself in university, make sure that you also experience the world. Participate in extracurricular activities. I was so glad when the SRC president mentioned the apathy on the part of the youth in even supporting its activities. No, we need to change our mindset and attitude. Always complaining. I remember years ago I came across one statement that says, never ask of what your government can do for you, but what you can do for your government. We have so many problems as a nation. Not only in Ghana, but it looks like it's a problem across the world. We cannot come out of school and expect the government to always do it for us. That time is past. My daddy told me in their time of best education, they were fed with chicken, they were even fed up with chicken. Look at our time. It is not easy. Fellow youth, the challenge is now ours to make a difference even in the situation we find ourselves. Nobody's going to make it softer for us. It's getting harder and harder, but certainly we cannot lose hope too. Yes, in politics, the old men and women have occupied all the seats, but still there is room for us. When you exhibit the requisite qualities, you're able to speak and wash your hands with the adults. They will train you and bring you up to their level for you to also find your space in every profession, not only in politics. When it's time for elections, a lot of people have sunk so low in terms of apathy, not wanting to even to participate in common election. No, we need to change our mindset. Ghana belongs to all of us. If you've never read the Constitution, I urge you from today, take a copy, take time, read the Constitution, not everything. Look for the preamble, Article 1, 2, 3, and probably the provisions on citizens. Know your rights. Learn about it. Don't only limit yourself to the radio news broadcast or TV. Learn, develop yourself. And I believe all the inhibiting factors, fear, lack of support, issue of poverty, low self-esteem, gradually will be a thing of the past.
Okay, thank you very much. And I want to hear from a lot of you, so I'm going to be opening the floor. You've heard from our discussants make the point, and as somebody who sits on radio and hosts the morning show, I engage with the politicians all the time. And if there's one thing I can say, I know that a lot of them would want to trade younger people to take over from them. After all, one of the things the politician loves is that in his retirement, he's able to call you my boy. This is my boy, so these are my boys, these are my boys. They like that. So they always would want to train people. But of course, you must just not get into politics just to serve somebody's interest. You must be serving a national interest. Politics, people say, is about interest. But your lecturer has talked about going to the United States to do her master's. And if you travel outside the country, as much as you may hate what others do, I say, whatever you see in a foreign land that you appreciate, think about how you can get say in your country for others to enjoy. Don't stay there and enjoy it. Come here, join the fight so that all can enjoy it. Yes, it will be difficult, but I'm sure that at the point when you look back, you'll be a happy man or a happy woman. Okay, the floor is open now for questions. I'll get back to the discussion so we wrap it up nicely. If you have a question, just show by hand. Tell me the institution you are representing, because I'm told there are other institutions here. And then you're giving a chance to ask your question. Can we please get a microphone to them? I probably should hand over my microphone. Do you have another microphone? Do we? Okay, let's get a microphone. And we'll start off from here. The fair gentleman here would have three questions, and then we get to the discussants to address the questions. So you can tell us your suggestions, your comments, and if you have questions. I want to hear more of your suggestions and comments, okay? Yes.
All right, thank you. I am Dion Prosper Akoto, the Speaker of Parliament for this noble university. In your various speeches, you made mention of the fact that, and you, the moderator, asked whether the door has been shut on the youth, or whether or not we've been given the opportunity, things have been made easier for us. I want to take it from this angle. If we want to get involved, we have to get involved properly. There are a lot of people who have interest to get involved with governance or governmental activity or leadership roles, even in our localities, even starting from our various schools. But it looks like there is some sort of technical knockout when it comes to the youth in participating. For example, the immediate past assembly member elections, the amount of money you will need before you can take part in this, and whether or not you're going to win or not, we do not know. The question is, how many people are willing? How many of us who are willing will be able to take part in it? Some of my colleagues who contested had to spend between 12,000 and 40,000, and majority of them lost. Yes, because someone is spending more than you are doing. And you go to the people and they tell you, you are nowhere closer. So you see, and then we'll talk of, starting a political career or joining the political parties. How much do we need? Should any of us here, including our honorable president, assuming he wants to contest for even the MPship now, how much does he need? How much is he having to contest for primaries alone? How much will he need after the primaries to contest so that we will have that youth, that young, below 25 years or so in parliament? It is so difficult.
Okay.
So it looks more like there are certain category of people that can, move up there.
Let's make it brief so that others can also, contribute.
Yeah. So
I know you're a Speaker of Parliament, so you can
yes,
talk for hours.
that is one. Another is the fact that the youth, there's lack of job, which the panelists have talked about it. People are doing it. The number of nurses in this school, number of nurses we produce each year, and who are home for 3, 4, 5 years, they feel discouraged. Can't we even export them?
Thank you very much, Speaker of Parliament. Let's get to the other hands. Yes. Let's give as many people as possible a chance to share their thought with us. And you see, you people didn't come early. Whatever we have been, the students don't show up early. Then when the time is up, then you keep coming with a lot of questions. It's another thing we must check. Show up early. Let's begin the conversation early. Yes, tell us your name.
Yes, my name is Henry Mankwa. My question...
Are you the minority leader or the majority leader?
I'm a member of Parliament.
Member of Parliament. For which constituency?
For Wisconsin.
Go ahead.
Thank you. My question has to do with how can we address the apathy and then the disillusionment our SRC president mentioned among the youth in participating in democracy. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Who else wants to ask a question? Yes, you. Let's get to him. Please show by hand so that we can get the microphone to you.
Thank you for the opportunity. My name is Kestin Benettini Ajilasi. I'm a law student in my final year. So my question also has to do with the apathy among the youth. This week on Joy SMS, I listened to the playwright, Uncle Ebu White, talking about the Ghanaian poison. Now, as Ghanaian people, it seems that it is in our nature to be quite apathetic. So, as youth, my question is, how do we address such issues? Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any other question? Please, let's get to the two behind.
Hello, I'm Samuel Apiachi. I'm the Wisconsin TESCON president. And my question is on who should be the role model for the youth? Because if we are looking at how our leaders are doing politics, how they are practicing democracy, I believe we can all agree that they are not the right role models per se.
Okay.
So if we can't look up to them, who do we look up to? Because should we learn from them? We are just going to have a repeat of the same things we are complaining about now.
You see, I'm a journalist, right? I'd like to do something to you. Please give him back the microphone. You are TESCON president, right? Who's your role model in the NPP?
Okay, so to be very honest, my role model is the current president. He's the reason why I decided to study law.
You like him?
I like him, yes.
You like what he does?
Not everything. But
So there's somebody you like.
No, yeah,
so there's a role model
there's
out there.
somebody I like. I look up to him, but as my dad would say, if you look up to a person, always recognize the fact that the person is a human being, and the only perfect person is God.
So the president has flaws, which you have seen.
He's a human being.
And you will not repeat those flaws.
Hopefully.
Hopefully?
Yeah.
Now that you've seen the flaws,
I can't see the future.
let's get to the next person.
Thank you. I'm Jonathan Oscar Fifi, and I'm with the Communication School of Wisconsin. And my question happens to be about this issue of TESCON team on our various campuses. See, it has eaten into the fiber of student politics so much so well that even in SHS, you go and a group identify itself to be MPP student, NDC student. I hope not to see this in the junior high school, JHS.
Okay.
And my question is, if we should continue the same line, gone were the days they talk about, oh, NUCS was so powerful, policies were initiated by NUCS. Can we say same for our current generation and the generation coming? If we can't, how do we correct this? Because it is a canker.
I'll start off with you. Thank you very much, all of you, for asking those questions. It means that we're done with the questions. Let me hand over the microphone to you. I'd like to start off with you, Worship. The young man is asking, how do you correct that? Truth is that if you have a student union that has two presidents at a point in time, NUCS managed to have two presidents at a time, I guess maybe as good as mine. How do you correct that? He wants to know.
I think I would want to start by responding to the question of the apathy, if you don't mind.
Oh, you can start with that.
Great. I hate to say this, but we are a young generation that is very scared. And apart from the fact that we are scared, we're also not interested in motivating the very few ones that are not scared. Look within your classes. If somebody is always challenging things and advocating for people, how do you guys call the person? I mean, I know what we call the person in my class. Either you call them a postkaya or you call them what? Something else. Now, if you are in an environment that naturally suppresses you and does not allow you to challenge elderly people in society, even if they're wrong, and even amongst yourselves, you still don't have the courage to allow people to challenge thoughts, how do you expect apathy to be solved? It's a question that all of us will need to ask ourselves. The solution is first self-reflection. Everybody must work on themselves. If we don't work on ourselves, we'll never have the room to allow others to explore beyond tradition. So that's the first thing I would say. The second thing is that find a purpose. Because if you don't know what you're fighting for, then you don't have a reason to fight. So if all of us do not have a collective goal that we are aligned on or we are aligned with, then there is no need for us to think that we can challenge something in the first place. Thirdly, always challenge philosophies. And I like what the president said, that if something worked years ago, it's not going to work today as well. We need to be able to allow invention, things to happen. So if previously you guys had a way of running your school system and all of that, it must change. Somebody must be able to take the bold step. somebody must put their head on the line. I'm willing to do that all the time, and I do them. But would you want to do that? Or would you think you want another person to do that for you? So that's, for me, that's the solution for apathy. And the thing about role models is that many of us young people expect that when we meet these very big people, they're smoothing the road for us. In fact, they'll pour oil so that we can even skate. So when you find a good person, every single day, you want the person to do every single thing for you. It's not going to work. And then you give the solution yourself that our role models are not supposed to be perfect or supposed to be saints. And so if you're looking up to somebody, you must have a specific goal. What exactly are you looking forward to learn from the person? I don't think you're looking forward to learn from the person's mistakes, but perhaps you can look forward to learn from how the person deals with their mistakes and their failures. And that could be a very good step, very important. So if you cannot learn from their failures, obviously you can learn from how to deal with them and have a goal. I'll keep saying it. Know why you are learning from somebody. If you don't know why you are learning from somebody, then it's a big problem. And know how to engage a role model. Some of us, because we are hardened by life, when we meet a role model, the problem that our generations are facing, we package all of them and give it to our role model. The person won't respond to your text message again. Imagine that after here, you see Prof and say, Prof, please, I have a school fees issue. Do you think Prof would respond to your message again? But if you want to get closer to Prof, to get to build a relationship, it will come naturally. And Prof may want to extend a helping hand. So the desperation should also be managed a bit. The way we are so much interested in wanting to, be given the soft life, it is a big problem that we have to look at. And the thing with TANE and test score, I'm currently even suffering from it because I'm running for as the president at GIMPA. And when I go to the students, everybody asks me, where are you, TANE or test score? Nobody has asked me, how are we solving the student problem? Everybody is asking, where do you belong? What has it got to do with the problems we're facing as students? The real problem with school fees registration has nothing to do with any of the political colors. So why are you asking that? It is deeply rooted in our veins that if somebody does not belong to where we belong, then the person is not fit for the job. So we need to examine what we call competence. And we need to examine what we identify as somebody being a part of us. I don't necessarily need to be in TANE or test score before I do the job. I need to understand the student problem to be able to deliver. So all of you, I'm saying it again, it's self-reflection. Look within yourself. Ask yourself questions. Challenge yourself. I am part. One time I also thought that somebody had to belong to my part, my section. Today I don't think about it anymore. So I'm not even faulting anybody. I'm only saying that let us look within ourselves. We are the problem that we are complaining about. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Worship. Prof, there's a lot of questions about apathy. Why is that the case? And if you can help them, identify role models in our politics.
Thank you, Mr. I think the issue of apathy basically has to do with the fact that when the youth push harder and no positive results comes out, they get disillusioned. So, but it's more about quick dividends against sustained transformational change. When you want quick dividends and you push and it doesn't happen, then you just give up. The system is not friendly, it's hostile. Then if you want to make a change, and we should all see ourselves as change makers, it takes a lot of time, a lot of persistence. And that one creates a sustainable benefit for all of us. So I think in a way, we should try to move a little bit away from quick dividends-driven strategies and desires and outcomes to looking at sustained long-term benefit. And that one, I tell you, it takes a lot of patience, takes a lot of resistance, takes a lot of resilience, takes a lot of everything. if we don't look at what we're going to lose, they will not be motivated to make change. So we should all look at the status quo. How does it benefit us? And what do we lose from it? If you think you are losing a lot from it, or it's not favoring you, that is even the time you should make more effort to change it. So we should try as much as possible to be change makers. It's not easy. It's not an easy task. But civilizations were built out of those who had vision, long-term vision, struggle. They were imprisoned, they were tortured, they were beaten. Some of them, their family members were killed, but they still persisted to be able to make the change and the freedom we are all enjoying. So it's not easy. When we want quick, we may get the quick, but the system will not change. It doesn't have to be quick dividends for our personal gains, but sustained collective effort to create an enabling environment, I like that concept, for all of us to benefit. The issue, so we should see ourselves as change makers, not just short-term change, but long-term change. It's just like when you come to university, level 100. Why are you in level 100? Because you think that in the next 4 years, when you finish your bachelor's, or in the next 5 or 6 years, when you finish your master's, or in the next 8 or 9 years, when you finish your PhD, you're going to teach or you're going to look. So you are looking at the long-term benefit. That's motivating you. Your teachers will insult you. You come here sometimes, there's no water for you to drink, there's no food for you to eat. But you say you drop out. You still persist because you are looking at the long-term benefit. And that's how change makers work. We have to work towards the future in a very selfless manner. If we look for the quick dividend, you get the money. They'll give you money. They'll give you everything. But what will happen to those who come after you? So that's how we have to look at it. I am honestly not happy about monetization in our politics. It discourages very competent, experienced people who could have contributed meaningfully to our political discourse to stay away. Because people believe that the best way you can influence and change people and get them to vote for you is through spending money. And we have demonstrated it over the years. People doesn't bother so much about the ideas and the experience and your qualification. They cherish so much about what you're going to give them instantly, and then they profit from it. But I don't also blame the voter population so much, because sometimes they look at the kind of exorbitant lifestyle some of our politicians are living. So you knew him maybe at university, you were amazed, and you were all struggling. He was even coming to you with Gary without sugar, you were giving him sugar. Then all of a sudden, he lives in the best of mansions, he drives the best of cars, and then you also say, okay, if I don't get it, when you come to look for my vote, I also have to chop some of the money. So people make those instantaneous demands. So I think it has to take both widows who vote to let them know that you cannot just buy my conscience and my cherished decision-making process with money. When we begin to punish them in that way, maybe it may change, but it is a very serious threat to our democratic dispensation if you are not able to fight it. Now, at TESCOM, it's a good breeding ground for future politicians. If you look at most of our politicians who are there, they started with student leadership. And those kind of associations engender political debate and participation. But my concern is the fact that it has completely crippled, how do you call it? The student organizations, the NUCs, and then all the other very prominent institutions and student bodies that in the past, government feared students because we had a very unified response to policies, and we could fight government and we could champion our interests. Now we are divided. So when MPP is in power and there's a problem, the MPP group will fight the NDC group or the other group that is fighting. And when the tables turn, it happens. Do you know who loses in this battle? It's with the youth and the students. The politicians will always have a safe pass. People will resist. They will use students to resist students who are fighting for student interests so that they continue to have their way as government. So if we do not realize that we are those that we are fighting, or we are fighting ourselves, they will forever triumph. And I think it's high time we started recalibrating the process. I like, as a professor of political science, I like participation. I like student groups. I like campus being the breeding grounds for people to master the art and perfect the art of what? Doing politics. But we always have to look at some of the challenges that comes with it. And if we can still do the partisan politics and still look at the collective interest of student body, we will be more better than the way we are now. And I don't have a solution for it, but I think we should look at our welfare and see that what we are doing, is it helping us or it's not helping us? If it's not helping us and we feel it's okay, then so be, I don't know, solution that I can provide, honestly.
Thank you. Finally, Mavis.
You have said it all. One thing that saddens my heart is the unnecessary divisions we have accepted onto ourselves. When I spoke the first time, I made mention the fact that we as a people, Ghanaians, adopted for us constitutional democracy, which is the constitution. Is that not the case? It wasn't about any political party, left or right. It's for Ghanaians. Same also when we talk about youth participation in democracy. It's not about some people wearing some political colors. It is for you and I. You don't need to belong to a party in order to participate in any what? Democracy. The only qualification here is to be what? A Ghanaian. If you're a Ghanaian, certainly it will come naturally for you always to place Ghana what first before any other thing. That is why I'm saying that. We all need education. We have institutions of state which have been charged with the responsibility to educate us on some of these basic things which are even contained in the preamble and the Constitution of Ghana. Most of us are not aware. As a people of this country, we wield so much power, but because we do not know, sometimes we give up and allow the few who call themselves the government of the day to lord it over us, when we are supposed to be holding them accountable. I really appreciate the work that has been done today by CDS Africa to bring all of us together to learn about some of these things. It's not about NDC, it's not about MPP, it's not about TESCON or any other body. It is about Ghana. It is about Ghana, it is about Ghanaians participating in the democracy that we adopted for ourselves, which will create equal opportunity for us and even for posterity. If things are going wrong, let's not throw our hands in despair and say that, as for this government of the day, by their behavior, by the way they do things, there is no hope for the future. We have hope for the future. If we know who we are in the eyes of the law, we can all rise up to the occasion and demand accountability. When even the voice of the people speaks for a change and the system corrupts, changes our world, we can stand up to them. And at the end of the day, we will see the change we all want. So that's the little I would say.
Thank you very, very much. We can definitely do better. So, my brothers and sisters, I'll tell you one thing. I have known politicians for a very long time. I have voted in Nooks elections, and some of the people we campaigned with, voted for, are in government today. Once upon a time, my very good friend, a member of parliament for Dwaboso, told me that we used to do activism on campus. That's Kwabena Minchakando. You decided to use yours to sit on radio. I have joined national politics, which was good. It's doing well. But you see, even when we talk about the person you knew yesterday, who goes into parliament and all of a sudden his lifestyle changes. The member of parliament that you vote for and all the politicians we vote for as a country have decided that we insulate them from all our problems. That's what we decided because we didn't want them to be corrupt. So somebody goes to parliament today. The first thing that is done to him is to be giving rent allowance. The last time I checked, about 6 years ago, more than 10 years ago, his rent allowance was 50,000 for 2 years. So that person may actually have a house. It doesn't matter. We pay that money to him. Then, on top of that, we'll come and talk about all the other things that he gets. But that's because, as a people, we took a decision to do that. Now, let me move on to the point that you made, that if you go and contest elections, you lose. Look, you as young people can actually decide that you will support a candidate to contest elections. But mind you, participation is not only about standing elections. You can actually form a group today, tour all the university campuses, and get a youth manifesto, and tell every political party. So that's when you would have TESCON and TAME coming together. Not a divisive thing that we see. Saying that if you want our votes, this is what you have to do. And we are prepared to support any candidate that puts this in his manifesto. I tell you what, all the political parties will begin engaging you. At that point in time, you say, we are waiting on the best political party to implement this. And so you allow your members to take a decision on who they vote for. When any political party wins and refuses to implement that, it then becomes your responsibility to criticize the same group of people that you sat down with and had discussions with them. I do not see why it should be a difficult thing. Yes, today, democracy has become very expensive and done. But as a way of correcting it, young people can decide to sponsor a candidate that they will campaign for and vote for. He may not win, but he will send a signal. The next time, being mindful of the fact that you want to send a signal. If you find yourself in better places, you help that candidate to be able to campaign, not paying or bribing, but be able to campaign so well and win elections. Because if we all sit back and say, it is money, so I am sitting back, we would allow the same people who steal from the state to continue in power, and then would come back and complain. Enough of the complaints. The time to act is now. Thank you very much. But before we wrap it all up, I need to invite the Director of Research and Policy of CDS Africa, Dr. Abena Boateng. She'll give us some few remarks and then end with a vote of thanks. Let's welcome her with a round of applause.
Thank you very much, Mr. Winston Amwa. The way you were going, I was just nodding and I was thinking, oh, you're giving a very good closing remarks. So perhaps I'll just take everything he has said and say, he's giving us a lot of food for thoughts, right? Let us go out and think about how we can all come together as young people and change the narrative in the country. You want to become an MP at age 25. It's doable, but you don't have the money. The change starts now. If we all decide that we are not, for the next election, we are not going to take money, we are not going to take any goodies. When they come, we say, no, take your money, but tell us what you have for us as young people. That will change the narrative so that in the next 4 years, when any politician is coming, they know that it's not money that will take them into wherever they want to go, but it's about the policies. And you being students that you also have all the fresh ideas, you will then be able to move forward with your policies. And by so doing, you will be able to get into parliament. Listening to the questions that came and the answers that were also given, I am fully reassured that this program that we've organized is a call in the right direction because it has started the conversation for all of us to now know where we can start from to participate in the democratic processes of our beloved country. If you do not know where to start from, I will urge you, go to NCC, the National Commission for Civic Education, and ask them, I want to help. I want to do something for Ghana. There, it is non-partisan. So they'll give you work to do. And that will be a starting point for you. Even if you are not paid, it is work that you can put on your CV, that when you are looking for a job and they are asking for a certain number of years of experience, you will be able to give that as work experience, and that will help you. So, fellow, because I think I'm so young. So, fellow young people, let's come together. Let's shed the political colors and work as young people who have one agenda. That is the future of our country, the future we want to see, the future we want to live. Let's start putting in the building blocks now, so that when we get there, we would be proud of ourselves that we all worked together to get the democracy entrenched in our country, Ghana. With that said, I want to take this opportunity to thank Professor Obeng Mriku, President of Wisconsin International University College, and the management of the university that have supported us right from the beginning up to this point. And they also graced us with their presence and also gave us solidarity messages. We thank you so much. We are very grateful. We want to thank all the speakers, Hakeem, Akosua, and everybody that was here. But a special thank you also goes to Professor Alidu. We are doing this with you, and we are grateful for the support that you've been giving us. Madam Mavis, I felt the passion with which you were talking, and I can only say thank you so much. I think you resonated with a lot of us, and we are grateful. Joshua Worship Reform, you and I, we have beef that we haven't finished beefing. But thank you for your presence and for the invaluable contribution. To the friends from YPG. YPG, thank you for coming again to support us, our friends from the media, and to all of you beautiful and handsome ladies and gentlemen that are here with us. We appreciate your presence. Please live here as ambassadors for democracy and democratic participation. God bless us all.
Thank you very much, Dr. Abinabatin. We can definitely do better. Let's give him a round of applause. Yes, but before you go, please follow CDS Africa on social media. The handle CDS Africa, and you can see the QR code on the screen. Scan it and evaluate the program. That is very, very important. Please don't leave without scanning the QR code that you can see on the screen, and then you evaluate the forum. On that note, thank you very much. My name is Winston Amwa. On a very good day, Monday to Friday, 5:50 to 10 a.m., you'll hear me on the Super Morning Show on Joy 99.7 FM. You have a lovely weekend, and catch you on radio. Bye.
Right, okay, so the Youth Democracy Forum being organized by the CDS has ended here at Wisconsin International University College, Ghana, Accra campus. And we'll be speaking to some of the students, what they've learned so far and where their expectations meant. Now, remember that this event is a series of events being organized on the campuses of the tertiary universities. So we'll be speaking to some of the students. I'll try and get closer to some of the students, and then let's talk to them. Okay, so let me try and get. Okay, Okay, so let's try and get some people to talk to. Okay, so I'll try and get to and get to worship, so that we can talk to. Okay, okay. So I have my I must say I'm a student here also, a final year student here at the Wisconsin University College. So I'd like to speak to my friend. Oh, okay, so the program has ended. I saw you clapping at a point. Were your expectations met?
Yes, I would say all my expectations were met. What I was expecting to hear, in fact, a lot. We've really learned a lot, especially from Dr. The law lecturer. She really gave something that made me happy, and in fact, I would say they've all done well. They've all done well.
Okay, so what is the one that you are going home with as a youth who wants to be part of the democratic process?
The most important thing I learned here was they said when, as a youth, we shouldn't always focus on money. Like politicians will come to us, we have the power, we have the mandate to decide for them. It is not a matter of we taking money from them, because when we take the money and they go back, they are going to do the same thing they are doing. So as youth, if we want to make a change, we should always resist the money. We should come out boldly to them that, oh no, this is what we want you to do for us, so that we can all develop the country on better democracy that we want.
Okay, thank you very much. We just spoke to some of the students. We'll try and get more students to speak to, even some of the speakers to speak with on the democracy. Worship is joining me very soon for a quick interview. Worship is joining me. Worship is an aspiring SRC president for GIMPA. Okay, so you fix this thing for me so that we can have a nicer conversation. Okay. So last week you were a speaker at GIMPA. Okay. Yes. So last week you were a speaker when we came to GIMPA. Okay. So come closer. Yes. Very good. Okay. So Worship is just trying to fix his microphone so that we can have a conversation. Okay. So last week you were at GIMPA where I heard you speak, and you were more of giving the youth opportunity to be created to us. Today, too, in your address, answering one of the questions, you were more worried about this teen and then TESCON issue where they are supposed to solve problems for students, but it's like it is moving away from its core mandate. Now, what is the best way of ending that issue?
I think that as young people, before anything in politics, we should be very much concerned about our interest and the needs that affect us as students, not directly as individuals beyond the school environment. Because as far as STAIN and TESCON is concerned, they would do the bidding of political parties. But we must first be young people and first factor in what really is directly affecting us before we consider the needs of, these varying parties. Because at the end of the day, these parties would reach, the objectives and the goals, and the student populace will still be struggling with the problems that are affecting us. Because like I mentioned, there are several concerns, particularly with registration issues here and there. And these are things that we need to collectively, beyond our political colors, be able to fight, put our hands together, and pull ourselves to pole position and work towards it. This is not the time for us to say, oh, he's not in TAIN or TESCON, so we're not going to support him. Whether he's fighting for us or not, we don't care. That's the point I'm trying to draw people's attention to, young people's attention to. Let us think about the bigger picture all the time. That beyond these parties, beyond the interests that these parties will be pushing on us, as young individuals, we have problems that directly are affecting us right from the base, and we must look at it.
Okay, now let me put you on the spot. I know you are contesting for GIMPA SRC president. Now, what is that one thing that you are campaigning on, which you think students should look at that particular thing and vote for you?
I have a mantra, and the mantra is that we're building GIMPA for all. Now, I am very much concerned with the structure of educational system, especially because it does not give everybody the opportunity to reach their goals. You know, because of the overwhelming number and the population that the school admits, not everybody may have the opportunity to do that. But as a student representative council, our duty is tied to ensuring that we reach every single student on campus and build an environment, an enabling environment that even if the whole school itself will not be able to support, because the environment and the system is structured, you can equally do it for yourself. So for me, we're building impact for all, and that is the bigger goal for me.
Okay, so from us here at RGG, we wish you well in your election. So we've been speaking to Worship, an SRC aspiring president. Yes, I think elections is very soon. In May, yes. So we wish him very well. Okay, so this has been a live production of the CDS Africa Youth Democracy Forum, which was held here at Wisconsin International University College, Accra. Okay, so we are ending the production. I want to thank all the production team led by Achu, led by Efo Achu. Yes, let me add Efo Achu. David was behind the camera. I was also behind the camera today. I was still photographer, director of photography. Andrews, the birthday boy who is celebrating his birthday today, and then Caleb, and then Rebecca, and everyone who supported this production. This has been a live production from the campus of Wisconsin International University College. We'll come again to your homes with another edition of Youth Democracy Forum. Remember to follow us on all our social media handles at RGG News. RGG News, your views, your platform.
It's good. That was. So we can end, I mean. Yeah.